So I'm pretty sure I've said this before on my channel, but I have a problem. And that problem is my obsession with camera gear, especially lenses. But today I have found some lenses that are extremely affordable relative to cinema lenses, but what you get for that price is astounding. However, there are still some problems that you're going to have to deal with, and so I want to break down why these lenses are so special, how to overcome some of the issues that you're going to have with these lenses, and then also I just want to share some of the amazing footage that we captured utilizing the Irix lenses. Now, if you were like me a few weeks ago and you didn't know what the Irix lenses were, well, let me give you a quick breakdown of everything that is included with these Irix Cinema lenses. First of all, it's important to note that if you go to Irix's website, they do make photography and cinema lenses, and there are clear differences between the two. When it comes to their cinema lenses, they have a ton of different prime focal lengths coming from 11. Actually, I'm gonna look at my notes here because these focal lengths are a little bit weird, which is something that we're gonna talk about in a little bit, but I don't want to get these wrong. So they have an 11 millimeter, a 15, a 21, a 30, a 45. They just announced a 65, so I guess they just skipped 50 altogether. And they also have a 150 millimeter in both tele and macro versions. So I know what you're probably thinking already. Those are some pretty weird focal lengths, but let's hold off on talking about that for now because there are some other really cool features that these lenses offer. As you'd expect from any other cinema lens set, they do have matching gears for both their focus and aperture, but unlike a lot of other cinema lenses, they do add some additional features that is honestly the first time I've seen in any cinema lens, or really any lens for that matter. For example, the entire front of this lens is actually magnetic, which means not only can you attach their magnetic hood, but you can also attach magnetic filters. Speaking of filters, the front of this lens has a 95 millimeter diameter, but it can also take 86 millimeter screw-on filters as well. Now, I will say that the magnet on the front of this lens is not the strongest. However, when it comes to the overall build quality of these lenses, honestly, they stand up with the most expensive lenses I've ever seen, and actually are even better than a lot of the super expensive lenses out there. These lenses are also designed to work with 8K sensors, and so you will get full coverage on your 8K cameras along with having weather sealing on these lenses. Now, another thing that's really not that important, but I think is kind of cool, is that these lenses just kind of look awesome. If you are someone like me and you like to take tons of BTS photos and videos, maybe you have a YouTube channel, then you will love the fact of just how these lenses actually look on your cameras because they make every camera build just look better. I know that's super dumb, but I don't know. I mean, it makes my Instagram account look better. Now, if all this lens talk is completely going over your head, don't worry. I actually have an entire guide specifically for lenses. So if you are interested in learning more about lenses, then I strongly recommend you check out the Creative Fam Academy. It's my online platform where I teach everything about filmmaking, video production, you name it. Not only like how to shoot better videos, but probably more importantly, how to actually make money shooting videos. And so if you want to learn how I was able to make video production my full-time job, where I literally don't do anything else other than this, then I strongly recommend you check out the links down below in the description for the Creative Fam Academy. On top of learning a lot of stuff, you also help support this channel. And thanks to members of the Creative Fam Academy, we are able to make awesome videos like this, like the Komodo X video. And so I really do thank all the members of the Creative Fam Academy who help make videos like this possible. But that's enough of a detour. Let's hop back into the Irix lenses. If you guys saw my video that came out not too long ago on the Komodo X, you will have already seen a ton of footage captured with these lenses. And that is something that I knew I wanted to do when I started testing out the Komodo X, was to pair them with these Irix lenses. One of the main reasons being is that these Irix lenses come in a ton of different mounts, including a actual RF mount, which is what I wanted to do with this camera. See, of course, you can always buy like an EF mount and then just put a converter on there and then attach it to an RF mount camera. But I wanted to work with native lenses, and that was something that was really nice about these lenses, was that they were available in that RF native mount. So the very first time I actually shot with these lenses, as I mentioned, was for the Komodo X video, and I knew I wanted to use them for our dancer sequence. Now, when working with a dance scene in general, it's good to have a variety of different focal lengths because obviously the dancer's movements are going to drive a lot of the composition and a lot of the storytelling. However, I also wanted to have different lenses so that way we could get some different feels at different moments throughout the routine. On top of that, I knew I needed some wider lenses, and so for this test, I went with the 15mm along with the 30mm, but then I decided to also request the 150, not the macro, but just the normal 150, because I wanted to kind of play around with this super telephoto cinema lens, which honestly I had never shot with 150 prime before, and I knew it was going to be a challenge, but at the same time I also just wanted to try something new. Now we actually used this lens for a couple shots in the Komodo X video, this eyeball shot of course, but if you actually freeze this shot and actually look at it, you'll realize just how important this lens is. First of all, this is not the macro version, however we were able to get a super tight shot of our talent's eye. But also, if you actually pay attention, you'll actually see both me and Reese and the camera in the reflection in her eyeball, and that is just how sharp this lens is. You get all of the detail, but you can also see how creamy the fall off is on that focus. This was probably one of my favorite lenses to shoot with, although I will say my first AC was not that happy as trying to pull focus with this lens, because even at a T3, this shallow depth of field is super shallow, and it can be very hard to pull focus on, especially if the camera is moving. Now, if there's one word I would use to describe the look of these images, is that they look very clinical. This is a type of lens that would be fantastic for like commercial jobs or interviews, but they don't have a ton of characteristics that you would find in vintage lenses, which personally I actually prefer to have more clinical lenses because I believe that you can add in those looks in post. However, I still do see the benefit that some people have when it comes to using vintage lenses because they can give you a baked in look that can be hard to replicate in post. Now for this shoot, we had a 1200D outside blasting through the window, and honestly, that was our main lighting source. We did have a bounce to sort of fill in some of the light in the room, but it wasn't making a massive difference. But shooting with these lenses with that light outside, I actually was able to find some pretty unique and interesting features that have to do with this lens. For one, when it comes to looking at the lens flares on this lens, they're actually super subtle, which personally I have come to love more and more. When I first got into cinematography and filmmaking, I thought I wanted those crazy J.J. Abrams lens flares all over my footage, but what I found was that they can be distracting, and if you're not planning for them with your framing and your blocking of your talent, well, they could actually just like cast all across your image, basically making your talent completely unrecognizable. Also, what I find is that when there is a lot of lens flaring in your shot, you tend to lose a lot of contrast. And that's something that was actually really unique about these Irix lenses, is that even when I was getting lensed flares in my shots, they were very subtle, but I was also not losing a ton of contrast. And this was super important for these shots because I had a talent who was wearing black. And whenever you have a talent wearing black, the last thing you want is for your black levels to start looking gray and kind of faded or washed out. And having a lens like this that didn't lose a lot of contrast even when it was flaring was a fantastic plus. Now the truth is not everything was amazing about these lenses, but I do have to give a quick little disclaimer. Now, as I mentioned, yes, Irix did send these lenses out, and as I mentioned before, we used them on that red Komodo X video, which Irix was nice enough to help sponsor portions of that video because that video was super expensive to make, especially just for a YouTube project. However, I will say that this video in particular, where I'm giving my opinions about these lenses, is not sponsored by Irix in any way, and actually they won't even see this video before it comes out. In fact, this video is actually sponsored by Canva, and so what I want to do is, because I know that sponsorship ad reads can be kind of boring sometimes, is I want to tell you guys a little bit about Canva, and while I do, I'm going to show you guys just some footage from these lenses because we didn't just shoot them with our ballet set, but we also shot a lot of the car stuff with our Lamborghini using these lenses. And using Canva, I was actually able to sort of plan out a lot of what went into this project. See, if you're like me, you might have thought that Canva was only a design program, but Canva has actually done a ton of new benefits that make the program even better. For example, Canva now also has a built-in video editor, which you can use to input footage and kind of cut together quick edits, or you can even use it to create social media content, which is the way that I have used it a lot of the time. Because it has so many built-in templates and it also has so much stock footage, if you wanted to utilize Canva to edit your videos, you could absolutely do that. But what's nice is that not only can you use it to edit videos, but you can also use it to just plan your videos overall. See, with this project in particular, I actually used Canva in order to get some of my shot choices in line to be able to share with the production team that was going to be helping me execute the video. So you can go into Canva, you can create presentations, and the nice part is if you need like to make like a storyboard or a shot list, Canva can absolutely help you in doing this. Because it also has access to so much stock photos, if you don't know exactly what shots you're looking for, you can just go into their library of footage and start sourcing different shots, find the ones that stand out to you, and then put them into a nice presentation that you can then share with everybody on your production team. And because we're sitting in the middle of 2023, Canva has also added in a ton of new AI tools. For instance, I needed a shot of a Lamborghini for my storyboard to send to my team before the shoot. And even though I couldn't find the exact image I was looking for, Canva's new Magic Edit tool will let you highlight what you want to change, and then it's literally as easy as typing what I need, and the tool will generate multiple variations of what I asked for. The same is true for the shoot with the dancer. I just asked the Magic Edit tool to change this dress to black for my reference photo, and it had no trouble. If you want to take advantage of Canva as a creator in order to see everything that it can do, you can check out the links down below in my description and download Canva, because as a filmmaker and as a creator myself, it has so many resources that you could utilize in order to take your creativity, planning, and execution to the next level. Now, as I was telling you guys a little bit about Canva, you probably noticed a couple shots that might have looked a little bit off. And this is where some of the cons come in for these lenses. Specifically talking about the 15mm. Now, I love wide angle lenses. In fact, I have probably more than I need when it comes to wide angle lenses. But one thing I noticed with this 15mm was that even if you go on their website, it doesn't show that there is no distortion. It shows that there is low distortion. And this is something that I notice, especially whenever your subject gets close to the camera. Now, this is something that's pretty common with wide angle lenses. However, I still think it's important that I share my experience. And so, for example, when I was shooting with the Lamborghini, I noticed that when we put the 15mm lens on the camera and strapped that to the back of the chase car, that whenever the Lambo would get super close to the camera, the actual perspective of the Lamborghini would start to distort. And I did notice slightly some of this happening with our dancer as well. Like her face would start to distort, especially as the camera would get much closer to her. And so this is something to just keep in mind with the wide angle 15 lens. Now, that compared to the 30 I saw almost absolutely no distortion whatsoever. So when we decided to get some more rolling shots at night, I flipped from the 15 to the 30 and all of the shots looked absolutely stellar. On top of that, the 30 also is a T1.5, which meant that we got amazing low light coverage with this lens. And that's another con that sort of pops up, and that is the variety of different T-stops from lens to lens to lens. Now, I totally understand why these lenses sit at the T-stop ranges that they do. However, as a DP, it can be sort of difficult to nail your exposure, especially if you're swapping lenses consistently, because T-stops are your actual measurement of light that's hitting the sensor. And so if you're shooting with one lens that is at a certain T-stop, and then you switch to another lens that has a higher T-stop as its lowest point, well, then you're going to need to adjust your exposure. And when you're working with cameras that shoot in RAW, so your ISO is not really a thing, your aperture and then filtration really become your only two sources to actually change your lighting conditions. Or of course, you can always just try to add more light, but that is something you're just gonna wanna keep in mind when it comes to switching from different lenses, is that if you were shooting at a lower t-stop on one lens and then you switch, let's say, to the 150, you are gonna need to make some adjustments to your lighting if you plan on keeping everything the same. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this video, these are some phenomenal lenses, especially because of the build quality that you're getting, because of the image quality that you're also getting, and because of just the thoughtfulness that went into building these lenses. I'm honestly surprised that they're able to come in at just under $1,200. And that's right, these lenses are just under $1,200, which is absolutely amazing, especially for everything that you're getting. If you are interested in checking out these lenses, I will have links to them down below in the description. I do strongly recommend maybe rent them, buy a couple of them for yourself, test them out, because the truth is that for lenses that are this good, it used to cost anywhere between $2,500 to upwards to $5,000–$6,000 per lens. But now we're getting phenomenal high quality prime lenses at a very affordable prices, and they are also available in kits. So if you are interested in checking out these lenses, I'll have them linked down below in the description. Also, if you haven't already, definitely go check out the Creative Film Academy. Links down below in the description for that as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.